Welcome back, folks, to hashtag AskGSM here today. I'm Graham GSM Matthews for February 29th, 2016. Yes, the first and only time we will ever have hashtag AskGSM on Leap Day, which is pretty historic, unless we continue to do the show for the next 30-something years, the next time this day lands on a Monday. And who knows, we might, with your support, we could go for the next 100 years, till the day I die, so who knows. But anyway, guys, speaking of such, your support is very much appreciated. If you want to keep the show going, you can send in your questions on Twitter, at WrestleRant, on Facebook, with the hashtag AskGSM, by the way, on Facebook, at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Put your comments on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or on the wall itself, or leave a comment down below in the comments section. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, we've got, wow, what is it, less than 5 weeks away until WrestleMania. A lot to be excited about. Monday Night Raw tonight, The Undertaker is back. Shane McMahon returned last week. That was recorded before Shane O'Mac came back on Raw, so we got a lot to talk about here on hashtag AskGSM here today. So excited for the world of wrestling, and like I said, Leap Day here today. I just can't get over that fact. I think it's just so cool that we will never, ever, ever again have a hashtag AskGSM on a Monday for the next 3 decades. And like I said, we can make it until 20, whatever it might be, 3 decades from now. Who knows? We could have the show going until 2040. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, the first KFC from YouTube. If Shane McMahon wins at WrestleMania and gets control of Raw, should Stephanie McMahon and Triple H get control of SmackDown and maybe replacing the show with NXT? I don't like that idea. Just because, I don't want to go too in-depth with it right here, just because I like the idea of a brand split, but a couple different things. One, I don't think it would work right now with the plethora of injuries, like Shane McMahon pointed out last week in his promo. With the plethora of injuries we have right now in WWE, a 3-hour Raw, which I don't have any inkling of an idea when we're going to go back to 2 hours. I don't think it's going to happen anytime in the near future, therefore ruling out a brand split for the foreseeable future. But I don't like the idea of NXT being like the second brand. I think it's great the way it is. It's still, at the end of the day, a developmental system. It is not an equivalent to Raw. I mean, I know it's like a brand of its own, and they're touring and whatever, but at the end of the day, people, I know they're bringing in Balor and Aries and Joe and all these established stars across the world, but they're still grooming them to be the next guy in WWE. Balor, as great as he is of an asset to NXT, there are still big plans for him on the main roster. That's the end goal. That's where people make money. Again, like I said, touring is great. They got great exposure on the WWE Network. That stuff is awesome. But the main roster is where they make the most money. And that's why they're still grooming people like Baron Corbin and Jason Jordan and Dana Brooke. All those kind of people that are NXT homegrown talent. So that's the end. That's the focus at the end of the day. It's great that we get people like Joe and Aries and Balor and Hideo Itami and Owens. All these guys are already established elsewhere in the independent scene in the world. But at the end of the day, it's all about those, those homegrown talent that they want to make into the next world champion. Not to say people like Sami Zayn and Balor won't be champion on the main roster, but that's their focus at the end of the day. So I don't like that idea just because I think NXT, the way it works right now, as the developmental feeder system for the main roster. I mean, granted, it doesn't always work. More often than not, it doesn't work. Just because they take someone from NXT and they just fuck them up. I mean, you look at Neville, Tyler Breeze, Emma. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people they've, promoted, quote unquote, to the main roster, and they just get buried. Or not buried, they're just not as well utilized as they were in NXT. So I don't like the idea. I don't know if anyone asked a brand split question this week. I don't think so. I don't remember reading one. We might get to one. Who knows? I don't think it's happening, though, just because, again, right now would not be the time to do that with so many people out in a 3-hour Raw. That's cutting the roster in half. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, at least not right now. Blue-Eyed Disorder, Jason, my good old buddy Jason, his question was, why oh why won't they push Dolph Ziggler? Right now, anyway, I think the issue with Ziggler, and I've talked about this multiple times before, is that he's really kind of reached that glass ceiling in WWE, and he has attempted to break it before by winning the World Championship a couple years ago, by winning the main event of Survivor Series in late 2014, time and time again. But I think by this point, and I like Dolph Ziggler, but I think there's a distinct difference between caring about Dolph Ziggler and liking Dolph Ziggler. I like Dolph Ziggler. Do I care about Dolph Ziggler at this point? Honestly, no. Just because if he left tomorrow, I feel like he's already been a world champion. He's already been US IC Tag Team Champion a million times before. He's already done it all. He's been in the main event scene, albeit for a cup of coffee, but he was the main eventer for a time. He won the main event of Survivor Series. They dropped the ball on him. And by this point, I feel like he's not getting that same reaction that he was even a year or two ago, just because people have essentially lost all hope for a Ziggler push. A lot like with Wade Barrett, who is probably on his way out of the company in a couple months' time. Dolph Ziggler, though, he's got all the tools. He's a great mic worker. He has really come far in that department. He's an amazing in-ring worker. His character right now is a little less defined than most characters on the roster, just because I have no idea what Dolph Ziggler is all about. And now more than ever, he's coming out wearing the 80s stuff and whatever, and the Motley Crue gear, which is cool, but why am I supposed to care about Dolph Ziggler? Because he's a great wrestler? I mean, that was kind of the same thing with Cesaro, and he kind of had a character towards the end a little bit. Dolph Ziggler, I mean, he just acts like a total asshole sometimes, like a total dick. So why should I cheer for him, you know? I don't know. That's just the way that I look at it. Again, I like Dolph Ziggler. By this point, though, the reason why they're not pushing him, as you're asking, Jason, I just feel like the issue is that he's already kind of been there, done that, and they don't really see him as a top priority. There's many other people that kind of see as a bigger priority than Dolph Ziggler right now, right above Dolph Ziggler. People like maybe Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. People have yet to hit their peak in WWE. Dolph Ziggler, believe it or not, has been in WWE for over a decade. That's no reason not to push him, but I'm saying that he's already kind of been there, done that. They've tried it time and time again. More often than not, it's WWE's fault for dropping the ball on his various pushes over the years. But still, I mean, by this point, it's gotten to a point where, I mean, could he be a world champion in 2016? Sure. But after the many start and stop pushes that he's suffered, more so than anyone else in the current roster, I think people have been designed to look at him a certain way and been designed to think that he will not be getting above a certain level. It's unfortunate, but it's the unfortunate truth. The first KFC, going back to his questions here, his second question, when should Chris Jericho turn heel? Hopefully sooner rather than later. It seems like that's what they're building to. The whole Y2AJ thing seems like it's building to a Jericho heel turn, which has kind of been, the plan, or at least what we've been talking about. People have been speculating since this whole feud started right after the Rumble. I think it's great. I think Jericho works better as a heel. I love him as a babyface, but that kind of has run its course over the last 4 years. Jericho as a heel would be something fresh. He's already been kind of teasing it, even with stuff on Twitter and on TV, and berating AJ Styles, calling the redneck rookie. And on Twitter, like a week or so ago, it was so funny. Someone asked Jericho what his thoughts were on Nakamura coming to NXT, Shinsuke Nakamura. And he said, unless he's in the big leagues, aka on the main roster, I don't care. It was a great response, and a typical Y2, a Y2J ass clown response from a heel Jericho. So that's the Jericho I'm hoping we get sooner rather than later. I think it's coming down the pike, hopefully at some point between now and WrestleMania. And we get Jericho, a heel Jericho versus Styles again at WrestleMania, or a triple threat with Owens, and I'll talk about that more in a couple of minutes. Someone else asked the question about that, but when should he turn heel? Probably in the very near future. Will Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar get overshadowed by Triple H versus Roman Reigns and Shane versus Undertaker? I don't think so, because I feel like the match would be good enough. If anything, I think the match itself has the potential to steal the show. Lesnar and Ambrose is a match I'm really excited about at WrestleMania. I talked about last week. I wasn't too excited for the idea of Bray Wyatt versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I mean, albeit it's something fresh, it's something new, but at the same time, I don't give two fucks about the Wyatt family right now. I went on a huge rant about that last week. I just do not care about the Wyatt family, and it has nothing to do with them. I mean, Bray Wyatt cuts the same promos pretty much every single week, but the way they've booked them to win and then lose, win, lose, like the constant losing and the 50-50 booking with this, it's not even 50-50 booking, it's like 20-80, because they're never fucking winning any matches that mean anything. So therefore, I don't care by this point. Again, it's the same thing with Dolph Ziggler. I like the Wyatt family, I like Bray Wyatt. I don't give a fuck what's next for him right now, though, because we have no idea what is next for him. Maybe we'll find out more tonight on Raw. But as of right now, I do not see them involved in any top-tier match at WrestleMania whatsoever. But to answer your question, I know that's not about the Wyatt family. I went off a tangent there. But to answer your question, I don't think so, just because Ambrose and Lesnar will have great chemistry in the ring. When I say on the mic, I mean between Ambrose and Paul Heyman. I talked about this for a couple minutes on Wrestle Rant Radio last week. I think the clip is here on the channel from last Tuesday, but you can listen to it there. But I just feel like there's so many reasons to get excited about this feud. It's something new. The match should kick ass. There's no disqualification. The promos between Heyman and Ambrose should be awesome. So I'm really excited for the match. I don't think it's going to get overshadowed just because maybe with Shane and Undertaker and what's on the line. Triple H and Roman, though, definitely not. I think people are more excited for this match than Triple H and Roman, despite that match being for the championship. I think Ambrose and Lesnar, I think a lot more people are excited about that match because it's something new and has the potential to kick ass. So no, I don't think it's going to get overshadowed. A lot like if you were thinking like Rock, and not even like Rock and Hogan overshadowed. They did. They overshadowed the main event, but you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, no, I don't think it's going to overshadow because I think it's going to be a great match and they'll prove, maybe to possibly steal the show. Frankishire 15, will the Wyatt family be a good fit for Lucha Underground? Very good question. The whole Wyatt family, probably not, just because I feel like they're so fucking boring. I love the Wyatt family. Like I said, I like the Wyatt family, but given their current gimmick, if Bray Wyatt was cutting those same promos in Lucha Underground, and it might kind of fit in with the magical world of Lucha Underground, where people are getting fucking murdered and all this other stuff and whatever. It might fit into their kind of the world that they've set for that promotion. But the whole Wyatt family, I don't know. The whole stable thing I don't really like all. I like stables, but Lucha doesn't really have many stables. They have 6-man tag team matches. Like, they have 6-person tag team matches with Evil Lee, Son of Havoc, and Angelico. They have the Crew and Chavo, which bores me to tears. That's the only thing that can really... any real negative thing I could say about Lucha Underground right now. But, that's a great question. Maybe Bray Wyatt, because he's kind of like an ECW character when I think of Lucha Underground. I don't think hardcore wrestling, but I do kind of see that underground vibe, like feel with Lucha like I did with ECW. It kind of has that same, feeling about it, like I said. So, I could see Bray Wyatt in that environment, maybe thriving like a Raven-like character. The whole group, though, probably not. Maybe just because I feel like the whole group as it is right now, maybe if they booked them better to be a more dominant stable, maybe I'd be more excited about them, at least at the moment, or maybe even in Lucha if they booked them strong from, the get-go, and as you probably know, they likely would have, considering their booking team is great, their creative team is great. But, yeah, I think maybe Bray Wyatt more so than the entire family, I think would be a good fit for Lucha Underground. Because like I said, I feel like Bray Wyatt has that Raven-esque feel about him where I feel like if he, if they didn't give him any limits in terms of what he could say and what he could do and lighting people on fire and shit, like that would be a Bray Wyatt I would get really excited about, more so than I was when he first came out of the main roster a couple of years ago. So yeah, more so Bray Wyatt than the family as a whole. Does the Godfather deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Not really, no. I like the Godfather, I like the character, but is it really, at the end of the day, WWE Hall of Fame worthy? Absolutely not. I'd be hypocritical to say that he is, after the rant I went on last week about Wade Barrett not being Hall of Fame worthy. Again, I like Wade Barrett, but I don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy. That's kind of grasping at straws, and I think the Godfather is the same way. And the Hall of Fame is all politics. They probably struck a deal with him, to make him, make him a Legends deal or something like that. I don't fucking know. That's like putting in the Boogeyman or something. I know the Godfather had many different gimmicks. I think he was an Intercontinental Champion at one point, so he was Kama Mustafa, or Kama. He was the Good Father, the Godfather. He was fucking, Papa Shango. He had all these different gimmicks, so... he had a multitude of gimmicks in WWE, but that's about it. From that perspective, I could see what he did for the business, and I'm not pissed that he's in the Hall of Fame, but he's definitely not worthy. Like, there's at least another 50 people that I would include before him. Honestly, like, I made a whole list last spring about people that I thought were worthy of a WWE Hall of Fame induction. The Godfather was nowhere to be seen on that list. So maybe down the line, like, that's bottom of the barrel. Like, even I thought Rikishi was more, worthy of the Godfather than the Godfather, more WWE Hall of Fame worthy than the Godfather. So I don't think he deserves to be in there, but it is what it is, I guess. Mark S. got a couple questions from Facebook here. First one being, do you think a title should be on the line when Dean Ambrose faces Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? Like if Dean Ambrose won his rematch against Kevin Owens before WrestleMania and the IC title was on the line, or do you prefer it without a title? No, I think it's fine the way it is. They have enough bad blood where the feud doesn't feel contrived, like a Wyatt family Lesnar feud would have been. Granted, they had history dating back to the Rumble match, but they didn't acknowledge the feud after that. They never really crossed paths after that, so I feel like it would have been kind of, thrown in out of nowhere if they went with that feud. At least with Ambrose and Lesnar, they have history dating back to right after the Rumble. They've been involved in the WWE World Heavyweight Championship chase for many weeks. I mean, if anything, if you want to put a number one contender stipulation on the line, I mean, they kind of already did that at Fastlane, but that's really the only thing I would see making sense. I mean, if Ambrose won the championship back from Owens before WrestleMania, like you said, that would make no sense, because I feel like Owens, at this point, they've already got the championship on him. Keep the title on him. Don't put it back on Ambrose, because they would make that title change a couple weeks ago on Raw. The Raw before Fastlane, completely irrelevant. So, I feel like it's fine without a championship. It doesn't need a championship. It's one of those rare marquee matches that I legitimately care about, and nothing's on the line. It's just bad blood, a ruthless rivalry that I cannot see, I cannot wait to see come to a head at WrestleMania. Who would you like to see face Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship on the network special on March 25th? I don't even think it's confirmed that he's wrestling. I don't really see any reason why he shouldn't, though. Just because he's not The Rock. I mean, even Brock Lesnar probably would. He is wrestling on that show, I believe. I'm pretty sure he will be there. But Triple H, it's not like he has a certain amount of dates that he has to adhere to. He's a member of the company. Like, he's an active member of the company. He can wrestle on every Raw if he wants to. I'm not saying that's a good idea. But he absolutely should wrestle at that event. I don't think it's confirmed as of right now that he will be. But I think he probably should, just because... I mean, I don't know how much sense it would make, just because he's already defending the title at WrestleMania anyway. So I don't know, why that would make any sense at all. But it would be cool. I don't know who you would put him against, though. It's not like you could do a triple threat with Reigns and, like, Ambrose or something. I mean, Ambrose would be a great fit. Like, give us the Mania match, or give us the match we almost saw at WrestleMania. What would it have been like if we got Triple H and Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania? Because that's a match we'll probably never see in WWE. So that'd be cool. It doesn't have to be for the championship, but it would be nice. Again, Triple H is winning. I mean, not just because it's the house show, because WrestleMania is fucking right around the corner. So it's not like with the Beast in the East special or the MSG special where there's kind of an inkling of doubt just because, it was before the pay-per-view, it was like before Hell in a Cell or Battleground or whatever. This is different just because WrestleMania is right around the corner and they're not going to change a title. They're not going to have a title change hands like a week before the event. That would be stupid. Or at least the WWE title. Maybe like the tag titles or something, but not the WWE title. So I don't really care if the title's on the line, but it would be cool if Triple H did wrestle on that show. It doesn't have to be for the championship. It would be nice. It would be cool. Albeit predictable, but it would be cool. Especially if it was against Dean Ambrose. Do you think a second title should be introduced into the male section of NXT, maybe called the International Championship, for example, because the same people keep competing for the NXT Heavyweight Championship, and guys lower down the card don't get a chance, and it would be a good idea to give more exposure to other guys from NXT development. Yeah, I mean, kind of and kind of not. I've talked about this before, I believe. Should a secondary title be introduced to NXT? I'm not fully against the idea. I just feel like we have a packed roster down in NXT that's not really necessary. I know you're saying that we have the same people in contention for the NXT Championship, guys like Finn Balor and Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn. But then who does that leave? Like Elias Sampson, Apollo Crews, a lot of great talent, but at the same time, you'd have the same people going after that NXT Championship too, that secondary title. The International Championship idea, I don't really like because it's kind of a ripoff of the Intercontinental Championship. It's basically the same thing. I know the Salamonster talked about this on his podcast like a year or so ago after Dusty Rhodes died. If you called it the Dream title, like they did the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, but if they did a secondary title and gave it to like Tyler Breeze to run with, who desperately needed the championship at that time, I would love that idea. I don't think it's necessary. I feel like less is more. I just like the idea of less championships. But at the same time, it wouldn't really hurt the promotion. I mean, we already have tag titles for that division, women's title, a main roster, or like a main championship. So the roster is getting big enough where I wouldn't be opposed to the idea just because we have Aries coming in and Nakamura. You have, like I said, Sampson, Riley, Cruz, all these other great talents down there that could not use. It's not, like I said, it's not necessary, but it would be nice to give those undercard matches at the takeover shows a little bit more meaning. So am I, petitioning for the idea? No, I'm not like lobbying for it hard, but if it did happen, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it could be beneficial for some of those talents, like I mentioned in NXT. His next question was, who do you think would benefit from winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal this year? It's kind of a trick question because the last two winners did nothing. Cesaro went on to do nothing. I know he got a big, it was a huge moment, and it was cool when he won the Battle Royal, but he went on to do nothing after winning, and that's all on WWE. Same thing with Big Show, who I thought was a terrible winner for the Battle Royal last year. He went on to do fucking nothing, and he was gone from TV like the following month for a couple months. So what's the point? I mean, at this point, do I care about the Battle Royal? Not really, because it's a fucking Battle Royal, They're Battle Royals are Battle Royals. Some of them can be fun, but especially towards the end, the whole throwing 30 people into a ring is just mass chaos. But anyway, in terms of who should win this year, Ryback maybe. Again, I don't know. I can't even say that they would benefit just because the last two winners went on to do nothing. So it's not even like this award's prestigious at all. It's not like the trophy's going to guarantee you a future shot at a championship. It might have been you, Mark, or somebody else who said that to me, who asked me about that in a previous edition of the show. Should the winner get a future title shot? And I said, absolutely. Like, that would make that trophy mean hell of a lot more than what it does now because the last two winners went on to do nothing. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be completely fine if they did that, but I don't think that's the case. So, that being said, maybe Ryback. Bray Wyatt, I feel like, is above it, but they've been losing so much, it would not surprise me in the slightest if they were involved in that match. It's kind of a shame, but that's just the way I see it going down. But yeah, maybe a Ryback or a Bray Wyatt, who knows, an NXT guy maybe, which I thought would be the case last year with Tommy. He got tossed down 5 minutes. But yeah, so I can't really answer that because the last two winners didn't really benefit from winning the Battle Royal, so I can't even really say that the winner this year is going to be any different. Who would you be interested in the idea of an NXT, or would you be interested in the idea of an NXT prospect match each year at WrestleMania, where a person from NXT who could go to the main roster in the future fights a main roster wrestler in a one-off match? Again, in theory, a great idea. In execution, they'd probably fuck it up. I mean, I liked what they did last year with Tommy winning the tournament at WrestleMania Access, and then going on to WrestleMania to be in the Battle Royal. Again, his performance lasted like all of 5 minutes, and he was tossed up by the Big Show of all people. But it was still cool, and they had that amazing little special on Tommy that they aired on NXT. I think it was right after WrestleMania. It was a great fucking special, where they aired him, like, his journey to the main event, or not the main event, yeah, hopefully one day. But they aired his journey to WrestleMania, coming into NXT, winning that WrestleMania Access tournament, and going on to WrestleMania on the kickoff show, whatever, but still WrestleMania. And I thought it was cool. So, yeah, I mean, something like that I like the idea of an NXT talent earning their way in either the Battle Royal, which doesn't really matter because the Battle Royal is meaningless by this point. But, even beyond that, I like the idea of a main roster wrestler or rather an NXT guy earning the right to face a main roster guy at NXT on the main roster. Because it's not like the whole Raw, SmackDown, and bragging rights idea. Like, I don't like the idea of an NXT versus WWE pay-per-view. I've talked about that before because I feel like they would treat the NXT guys like shit and just bury them all. Maybe not right at the start, but down the line they would prove like, oh, we're better because we're the main roster. So I don't really like that idea, but I do like your idea of doing a one-off match at WrestleMania and make it mean something, build it up to mean something. And again, like I said, it's not like Raw versus SmackDown or bragging rights where they would do those matches every single fucking week on Raw. So by that point, it didn't mean anything when you saw a Raw wrestler go up against a SmackDown guy. Whereas with NXT, you never see that happen. I mean, maybe once with Sami Zayn and John Cena, but even that meant something because we never see those kind of matches where an NXT guy comes up, not for a main roster promotion, but for one night only to face a main roster wrestler. So I like that idea a lot. Again, in theory, it's great. I don't know how they would execute it. They probably have the main roster guy win. But, this is the same company that had Kevin Owens as NXT champion beat John Cena, who ended up tapping to Cena 2 months later. But you never know with this company. It depends what kind of mood they're in when they book this kind of stuff. But, yeah, I like the idea. I don't think they're going to do it this year with TakeOver Dallas happening that Friday and WrestleMania on Sunday. But down the line, I like the idea of it happening. And Mark's final question here. What would you like to see AJ Styles involved in at WrestleMania? Would you like to see himself and Chris Jericho fighting for the tag team titles? Or fighting Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship, or something else? What about that commercial? Why not both? Da-da-da-da-da-da. You know that taco commercial? I'm not saying he should be both in the tag team title commercial. Both in the tag team title match and the Intercontinental Championship match. But why not intermingle the two ideas? And I talked about this last week on WrestleRant Radio. I don't know if I mentioned it here on #SGSM, but I did talk about this last week in that you could turn Jericho heel, and you could do that match at WrestleMania. I would love another Styles-Jericho match because their last 3 matches have been very, very good. All have been very good to great. So I would love to see another match at WrestleMania. You can add a little step if you want, 20-minute Iron Man match. That's completely unlikely. I talked about that last week. I know I talked about that last week. But it's not likely, but it would be awesome. Or the tag team title thing I don't think is necessary just because, one, the tag team titles are always on the kickoff show, and Jericho and Styles are not going to be on the kickoff show. They would probably try to shoehorn Jericho or Styles into that spot. Definitely not Jericho. Jericho is having none of that shit. Someone asked him on Twitter a couple days ago, like a week or so ago, any chance you'll be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania? And he said, no chance. I know Jericho likes it, like tease the fans and try to swerve the fans and whatever. But that was probably a total shoe in that that he's not going to settle for that shit at WrestleMania because he knows how worthless it is, and he's not going to. He's not going to subject himself to the Battle Royal. And he's absolutely right. He should not be in that matchup. Neither should AJ Styles, and I feel like the tag titles are the same thing. Nothing against the tag team titles. I feel like we could get a great match with the Dudley Boys, the New Day, and the Usos. So having Y2AJ involved is kind of meaningless. It feels like kind of a short-term thing with them tagging. He could turn on him tonight for all we know. Who knows? So we'll see in the months to come, or the weeks to come. But I'd much rather see Jericho versus Styles potentially versus Kevin Owens in a triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship. You get kind of that best of both worlds thing, where you get Styles and Owens after it was teased at the Rumble. You get Jericho and Owens, which we kind of saw a little bit of at that MSG special last year in October. And you also get more of Styles and Jericho. And also for the championship, for the Intercontinental Championship. So I really like the idea of that happening. Again, I don't know how likely it is, but my personal preference is to do a triple threat match for that Intercontinental Championship, and Kevin Owens can get involved tonight on Raw or whatever, because both Jericho and Styles want gold. So I don't know how you book it exactly, how you get to that point, but that's the match I want to see at WrestleMania. And the next question comes from, drumroll please, my computer's botching on me here, Andre G from Facebook. Who do you see Apollo Crews feuding with now? I've heard rumors of Crews facing Elias Sampson at NXT TakeOver Dallas. I really hope that's not true. I do not give a flying fuck about Elias Sampson. The guy's a good worker, but the character is as boring as shit. So Crews should not be involved with that at all. I do not want to see that match. But, again, that's probably happening. I've heard some rumors of that happening. I really hope it's not. But I was thinking the other day, what do you do with Apollo Crews? NXT doesn't have a lot of top heels. And this guy is not a top heel either, but I feel like he could be. I like the idea of a Crews and Alex Riley feud. You don't have to have Alex Riley win. I'm sure people are getting pissed at the idea of just me saying that, of Alex Riley versus Crews. I like Alex Riley, but I feel like with the idea with him going heel, he could be a nice heel for the roster. And the whole thing with him right now is that his whole character on air is that no one cares about him. No one cares that he's back, and he's using that as motivation as a heel. I mean, he has yet to officially turn, but based off the promos that he's cut on NXT and on the YouTube channel, based off what I have seen, he appears to be going that heel route. So I like the idea of him going after Apollo Crews because he's pissed, he's fed up, and he wants to make an impact, and who better to attack than the guy who has suffered very few losses in NXT than Apollo Crews. So I like the idea of Crews and Riley. I don't know if it's going to happen at TakeOver Dallas, but I like that a hell of a lot more than Samson and Crews. That just screams boring as fuck. I don't care if it's Samson versus Finn Balor. It's going to be boring as shit just because the guy's, again, a good wrestler, but the character sucks. At least Riley has some sort of a character that makes sense right now. So yeah, I could see Crews and Riley. Beyond that, I have no idea, but that's what I would do with Apollo Crews right now. His second question, do you ever see Tyson Kidd wrestling again? Based off what I saw last week, probably not, and that really, really sucks. With all the extra precautions they're taking with Daniel Bryan retiring, and I highly doubt Sting's wrestling again at this point, considering the fact he's fucking 56 years old, and the guy suffered 2 neck injuries in one match. There's no chance in hell he wrestled again. With Tyson Kidd, kind of the same thing. I feel like we're getting to that phase now in wrestling where they're not going to try to risk people coming back from a serious injury like they would have even a couple of years ago. So I feel like he will retire. It really sucks to say because I love Tyson Kidd. He and Cesaro were doing the best work of Tyson Kidd's career in 2015 as tag team champions. And in the year before that, when he was in NXT with Natalya, that was the best work of his career too. Some great matches with Neville and Sami Zayn and all those guys. That was a great run for Tyson Kidd that really rejuvenated his character. But yeah, do I see him wrestling again? Probably not, unfortunately, because the injury was so severe. And I was talking to Tom the other day from WWEC Radio. He was talking about how, the minuscule the chance of him surviving that injury were. So they're probably not going to take any more chances with him wrestling again, which sucks, but whatever's better for his health. And his third question here, who do you see making their return to WWE this year, including one-off appearance and a part-time schedule? So we got Shane O'Mac back, which is cool. I've always said, every year we get at least one big return to WWE, whether it is for a one-off or a full-time, part-time schedule or whatever. 2010, Bret Hart. 2011, The Rock. 2012, Brock Lesnar. 2013, Rob Van Dam. 2014, Batista, and also The Ultimate Warrior came back, and Hulk Hogan. A lot of returns that year. 2015, the Dudley Boys, and this year, Shane O'Mac. But is he the last person to come back to WWE this year? I wrote a whole article about this for What Culture. It's up right now if you want to check it out. 10 people who will undoubtedly return to WWE at some point. So not this year, but at some point. Goldberg would be cool. I feel like that might happen down the line. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I know there have reportedly been talks between the two sides. I don't see it happening. That would be cool. I just don't see it happening. As for anyone else, Rob Van Dam, I feel like could make an appearance. I mean, he's already been back, but he's still under a contract at WWE. It's just a matter of when he comes back and not if. Batista maybe later on this year. That's a possibility. There really isn't anyone I feel like is too likely, at least at this point in time. If you're looking for people that have yet to come back to WWE, like a Goldberg's my answer. I just don't think it's going to be this year, if ever, but he's like the only person that comes to mind, because all these other people have come back, and Jeff Hardy I would say too, but he already is back. Or no, he's not already back, but he's already back with TNA. He's already re-signed with them, and he's going to be with them for the next 2 years, reportedly. Maybe Kurt Angle. I mean, his contract is reportedly up with TNA already, and he's already gone from the promotion, but he's not retiring. And I'm not saying he's going to wrestle with WWE this year, but he could make a one-off appearance. I mean, he's already ruled out going back for the next year in wrestling, period. He's not going to make a decision until around this time next year, apparently, according to what he said. But, it's always possible we see Angle back, by late 2016 in WWE. Even for a one-off appearance, it doesn't have to be wrestling. It could be just a, one-off segment in WWE, like on Raw or something. At JJF Tweets from Twitter, your reaction to the Motor/Murder City Machine Guns reforming in Ring of Honor. I love it. You broke the news to me, Jared. I thought it was, I'm so excited. I was so excited to hear that. I saw the pay-per-view on Sunday from Friday, the 14th anniversary show. It was a very good show. I would strongly recommend checking out the final 2 hours. The final 2 hours of the show were really, really good. The first few matches were kind of duds. But overall, I thought it was a strong show, and that was a really cool moment, too. That kind of seemed like the direction they were heading in as of last week on ROH TV, so I'm very happy they ended up going that route, because I love the Motor City Machine Guns. I would say in TNA, besides Beer Money, my second favorite tag team in TNA history would be Motor City Machine Guns, and those two teams had a very, very good series of matches back in 2010. The best of 5 series they had over the tag team titles were absolutely amazing. Just an incredible series of matches. And then they got hurt after that, and they came back for a cup of coffee, and then one of them was gone. I think Shelley got released, or he left the company or whatever, and Chris Sabin was gone like a year or two afterwards. So we never really got that another run from them in TNA, a full-on run from these guys in that company. But it's cool to finally see them back together all these years later in Ring of Honor, where I know they're going to be utilized properly. So, in the tag team division of Ring of Honor is fucking stacked, dude. I mean, we talk about the tag team division being weak in WWE. Look at a Ring of Honor. Their tag team division is fucking stacked. You got the Briscoes. You have the Addiction. You got the Motor City Machine Guns now. You have War Machine, All Night Express. You have Silas Young and the Beer City Bruiser. The Boys even. You have so many tag teams in Ring of Honor. You have the Young Bucks. How could I forget about the Young Bucks? ACH and Matt Sydal. That's 7 tag teams right there, something like that. I forgot how many I said, so we have a lot of tag teams right now in Ring of Honor. It's really cool because they're all great, too, and the matches they have are just phenomenal. So, I love the idea of Motor City Machine Guns getting back together. Is that what they're going to be called, though? Murder City Machine Guns? I didn't hear that on commentary, but maybe that's what they're going to be called. But I love the idea, though. I'm very excited to see them back together in Ring of Honor. At Swagzio, what is one storyline/feud in any promotion right now that you don't care about? Goldust and R-Truth. Along with the Wyatt family, I do not care about what's next to the Wyatt family. I talked about that last week. But also, Goldust and R-Truth. I mean, I kind of held out hope. I mean, someone else asked a question about this, and I'll get to this in a couple minutes. Very, very shortly. The question's coming up pretty quickly. But I thought the segments had potential when they first started doing them between Goldust and R-Truth on Raw, but they have just been massive failures. A lot of the shit is just not funny. The matches have been awful. Like the match they had at fucking Fastlane a couple weeks ago, last week, between Curtis Axel and R-Truth, sat on my hands, almost fell asleep. Who fucking cares? I don't care. It's another team to add to the tag team division, so there is a bright side here. I like Goldust. I couldn't give two shits about R-Truth. But this is one storyline that they're giving a lot of TV time to, too. They're giving this feud a lot of TV time. And it's just not paying dividends. No one fucking cares. No one cares about these guys. So, again, I felt like it would have a Booker T Goldust-like feel to it, but it hasn't. So far, it's just been a swing and a miss in terms of comedy. And the matches have just been boring as shit because I don't care. But yeah, Goldust and R-Truth is one storyline right now I just don't care about. I like Goldust. I wish he would, do something meaningful before he retires. Like, why is he even back in the company if he's not going to do anything of note? That was the whole reason why he came back a couple years ago, because they had something for him with Cody Rhodes. But after that dissolved, he just became another loser on the roster that's never on TV. And when he is, it's in awful segments with R-Truth. So I just don't really care about it. Would Beer Money be a successful tag team in WWE? I think so. I think the Young Bucks, I'd rather see them not go to WWE. And the only reason I say that is because tag teams in WWE have a very short shelf life. And I know the perception of what makes a great tag team in 2016 has kind of changed, or rather a great talent in NXT. Like 5 years ago, you would have never seen an Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, any of those guys in NXT, much less WWE. And they have really kind of changed the game in terms of signing independent talent. But as far as tag teams go, WWE is not really, turned a corner in terms of tag team wrestling. I mean, in NXT, they have a lot of great tag teams down there, don't get me wrong. But just in WWE as a whole, tag teams seem to have a short shelf life before splitting up. And, I mean, it would be cool to see James Storm and Bobby Roode go their separate ways in WWE. But I feel like the money with them is as a tag team, at least at this stage of their careers. I mean, Beer Money, they're both like late 30s, early 40s. I mean, I'm pretty sure late 30s for both guys. So they're not going to be having much success as singles guys in the main roster. But as a tag team, they could have a lot of success. So I mean, if they book them properly in a perfect world, absolutely, they'd be probably called Alcohol Currency or something like that. And RJ and I talk about that all the time. Alcohol Currency. That's James Tornado. That's Bobby Polite. Alcohol Currency. Da 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 da. And the same theme song and everything. But yeah, if they book them properly, sure. I just don't think they would, just because tag teams, unless your name is the Usos, they tend to split up every single tag team they put together. So, and that's because the Usos suck at singles guys. They suck as singles wrestlers. So they're both very talented, but I don't care about them on their own, only as a tag team. So they could be successful in WWE. I'm not saying they would be, but there is a chance that they could have been had they been signed a couple of years ago. At this point, I think James Storm is with TNA for the next 2 years, so it's not happening. But it would have been cool if Bobby Roode got out of his TNA contract late last year when James Storm came over for a couple of appearances, and we got those two as a tag team in NXT, because I know the crowd was clamoring for that. A lot of Beer Money chants that night when he debuted in NXT. That would be really cool. At Scarlet One via Twitter, do you think The Undertaker will become more heelish for WrestleMania against Shane McMahon? We'll find out more tonight on Raw. I don't think so, just because they're going to be in Texas. This could be his last match. It looks like it won't be at this point, but there is a possibility that it might be. So they're not going to boo Undertaker, especially in his native Texas. So there's a chance. I don't think it's happening though. We'll find out more tonight on Raw if, like, Taker says, he denies the match, and Vince is like, if you lose, you retire, kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to this match. I mean, with Undertaker, with Brock Lesnar, they're not baby faces. They're not heels. They're fucking Brock Lesnar and Undertaker. I know Lesnar, or rather Taker, was a low blow in Lesnar, like his home city or whatever. But then Lesnar did the same thing to Taker in his native Texas, and they booed Lesnar. So Taker is Taker, Lesnar is Lesnar. They're not baby faces. They're not heels. People respect the hell out of both guys. They're at a point where WWE can afford to kind of flip-flop. It's not like Big Show, face heel, face one day, heel the next. with these guys, I mean, Big Show's established too. Both guys are at a level right now where the fans care enough about them where they don't care whether they're babyface or heel. They're going to cheer if they like what they do, or they're going to boo what they don't. And it's completely different from anyone else in the roster right now, where it doesn't really matter as much. But will he become more heelish? I don't think so, but there definitely is that possibility. It depends what Undertaker we see tonight on Raw. Will we see, the asshole Undertaker, the low-blown Undertaker, or will we see the humble Taker that doesn't want to give Shane McMahon the fucking beating of a lifetime, as Vince said last week on Raw at WrestleMania? And their next question, I thought I would enjoy the Goldust R-Truth program more than I do. Is there even an end game that's worth it? I just talked about this, but not really. I mean, if we get an extra tag team in the tag team division, whoop-de-doo. I think we have enough as it is, or at least, maybe not enough, but at least we have, we're not in desperate need of another tag team, like where we need Truth and Goldust tag team right now. We have the Usos, we have the Dudleys, we have New Day, Ascension. I mean, the Ascension mean nothing, but they're a tag team. We have, Jesus Christ. We have fucking maybe another tag team coming up. So we don't have many tag teams on the main roster, but we do have the Primetime Players when they reunite, whenever that is, because Titus O'Neil's, injured right now. But we do not need Goldust and R-Truth. Maybe at some point down the line, but all right, Lucha Dragons too, and League of Nations. So we got a couple different tag teams. We're not, in desperate need of another tag team where it's like, oh, we need R-Truth and Goldust. We do not need R-Truth and Goldust as a tag team. So to answer your question, no, I don't think there's an end game that's worth it. Unless R-Truth goes heel and we get crazy R-Truth conspiracy truth back, which I don't think is happening, then it's not really worth it at all. It's not. I don't think it's worth it whatsoever. How do you feel about the New Day possibly turning babyface? I gotta admit, I'm worried they're not going to be as fun anymore. And that's a legitimate concern. I mean, consider who's booking them, WWE. And the real reason why these guys got over was because of what they did on their own. So if WWE didn't have them go out there and do stupid shit as baby faces, like a lot of the other baby faces do, then I feel like they'd be just fine. Because their merch is selling regardless. They could still be the same characters, kind of making fun of their opponents and be just as fun and do whatever. I feel like they're bound to be baby faces at some point just because they're so fucking popular right now. But they're really killing it as heels, so I wouldn't really turn them right now unless there is a need for it. If we get New Day and League of Nations at WrestleMania, maybe, but if not, then what's really the point of turning them babyface? So I don't think it's necessary right now. Maybe down the line, I could definitely see where you're worried why they wouldn't be as fun anymore. But as for right now, I think they're fine as heels. I wouldn't turn them unless we need to. We have the Dudley Boys as heels. We have the Usos as baby faces. Enzo and Cass maybe coming up. So it's not necessary to turn them right now unless they do the New Day League of Nations feud. So maybe in that case, but other than that, I don't really see why it would be, extremely necessary at this point in time. And finally, their final question was, favorite King of the Ring tournament match? Very good question that I could not answer, because I'm thinking of all the King of the Ring tournament matches that I've seen, and I've yet to go back and watch all the King of the Ring pay-per-views in the WWE Network, but I did watch the King of the Ring DVD that was released back in 2011, like the very best of King of the Ring, the pay-per-view, and the matches and the tournament and whatever. They had a number of different matches on there that I really liked. A lot of the early ones were a lot better. I feel like towards the end, like Kurt Angle versus Rikishi, I didn't really care about. Edge and Angle was a good match. They had better matches in 2002, but still a good match. I'm trying to think what else. There were a couple different matches from early on that I thought were good. We're talking tournament matches too. You didn't say pay-per-view match, King of the Ring. You said tournament. There weren't a lot of great tournament matches. Maybe I don't think it was Bulldog. Bret Hart, whenever he won it in 1993, I thought that was a good match against... It wasn't the Bulldog. I forgot who it was against. But anyway, that was a good match, I thought. There really isn't one match that sticks out in my mind. It's like, oh, that was a great match. I love that tournament match for King of the Ring. So I don't know, because the only two tournaments that I've been around, or three tournaments, I guess, that I've been a fan for were last year, and we had no breakout awesome matches from that tournament, from what I can remember. We had the 2010 tournament, which didn't have any breakout amazing matches. I thought Morrison and Sheamus was good, but it wasn't an amazing match I needed to see. Like I thought it was my favorite tournament match of all time. The only one that comes to mind is Punk and Regal, and that match went all of 8 minutes, and it really wasn't that great of a match, but I love that match just because it solidified my fandom for William Regal, and that's what kept me around as a wrestling fan. I liked William Regal versus Randy Orton in England on Raw in April of 2008, the match that got me into wrestling officially. But it was really, had he not won King of the Ring the next week, I tuned in anyway the next week, but had he not been involved and had he not won it, maybe I would have fell out of it. It was because of Regal that I watched wrestling regularly, from that point forward. So I would have to go with that one, Regal and Punk, and I still watch that match back to this day on the anniversary of that event. So yeah, probably Punk and Regal from the 2008 finals of the King of the Ring tournament. Next question from @BradBradar. Can you rank the members of New Day and the Social Outcasts based on ring ability, mic skills, and your opinion of them? So it's really, all these are interchangeable, but for New Day, this is all subjective too. For me, I'd put Kofi because I feel like he's a great wrestler. As a character, he's come a long way too. Maybe not before, but now, if they wanted to give him a one-off reign as like world champion or something, I know RJ made a case for that late last year in RJ's 2 cents, and that was absolutely agree. I thought that was great. So Kofi Kingston, I would rank as the best member of the New Day, just from an all-around package standpoint, from having the total package of these 3 guys. And then the next 2 get difficult, because I feel like Xavier Woods him and Big E are tied for charisma, but where I feel like Xavier is better than Big E, although Big E is slightly more entertaining, Xavier Woods can go in the ring. So can Big E, but I feel like you could get a bigger match, or a better match out of Xavier Woods, which you would never really know because he's kind of the lackey of New Day, but go back and watch his work in TNA, his Consequences Creed. The guy is a very good worker. So I would put Kofi, then Xavier, then Big E. For Social Outcasts, I would do Bo Dallas. I feel like if there's any one of these guys that I feel like could be pushed right now, it would be Bo Dallas. It's kind of, not all hope is lost. He's not damaged goods, but he is entertaining as all hell. He's not a great worker, but if he's in there with the right guy, he's definitely competent. He's definitely capable of having a good match. So Bo Dallas I would put as the best. Next up, Slater, because he is very entertaining and also a very good worker too. After that, Axel and Rose. I would go Axel and Rose. Axel's at least a better worker. At least from that point forward. Rose, he's just boring. At least Axel's a good wrestler. He's boring too, but at least you can count on Axel for a better match. So, I don't know. I would go Bo Dallas, Heath Slater, Curtis Axel, then Adam Rose. I'm a Rosebud. I like Adam Rose, but I just feel like from those 4 guys, I feel like he's just the worst because he's boring and no one really cares about him. But his second question, much like Emma and Tyler Breeze, who is one great NXT talent who may translate poorly to the main roster. Not because I feel like they wouldn't thrive in the main roster just because of their talent alone, but rather because the booking team in the main roster probably just wouldn't utilize them correctly. So the 2 people when I was looking down the NXT roster that I feel make the most sense would probably be Tommy. The guy's a great wrestler, but the whole Japanese thing, and he's been well utilized in NXT, but Japanese guys never, not because they never get over, just because they just never get used the right way in the main roster. Look at fucking Kung Fu Naki, Taka Michinaku, you look at Kenzo Suzuki, Yoshitatsu, all these guys have the Japanese stereotypes, all this other garbage. So hopefully, we've come a long way from that point where I don't feel like that would be the case with the Tommy, and he's shown his talent in NXT to the point where I feel like we'd be fine if he didn't, if he went up to the main roster and didn't do those kind of things. Because he hasn't been doing them in NXT, and more often than not, people that get brought up from NXT do the same gimmicks they were doing there. Not all the time like Neville or the Ascension, but more often than not, they are the same character they were on NXT. So Tommy, I do fear for him though, just because his mic skills aren't great, and they do have a poor track record of booking Japanese talent, the right way, or rather, they have a poor record of, booking Japanese talent the wrong way. And also Enzo and Cass. I think they would get over with their mic skills, but they're not the greatest wrestlers. But I feel like with them, I feel like Vince looks at Enzo Amore and sees Santino Marella 2.0. And he's been desperately looking for that next Santino ever since Santino retired 2-3 years ago. And he might look at Enzo Amore and see Santino and break the 2 up and whatever. I really hope that won't be the case. These guys are tremendously talented and really remind me of a modern age, a new age Outlaws. I feel like on the mic, these guys are great. Not so much in the ring. Other than their takeover match from London last year, I couldn't name you one great match that I saw out of Enzo and Cass, because the guys aren't great workers. They're entertaining, but they're not the best of wrestlers. But anyway, I do fear for them in the main roster just because I feel like they might try to make them into a comedy tag team and do some shit with fucking the Social Outcasts or something. If that's the case, don't bring them up. Bring them up only if you have something for them to do. Like in the tag team title picture, or with the Dudley Boys, or with New Day, or whoever. But yeah, I would do, I'm just worried about, moreover than anything else, from NXT, moreover than anyone else, Tommy coming up from NXT, and Enzo and Cass. His next question: do you think that the hate Charlotte has received from some fans is completely unjustified? Yeah, I mean, I really don't see a lot of hate for Charlotte. I mean, I don't love Charlotte. I like Charlotte, but I don't really see too much hate for her online. I can kind of see what you're talking about, but it's not like, I mean, she's a heel, so she's supposed to get booed. But I don't see the same hate for her that I do for, Roman Reigns or someone like that, from like the online members of the wrestling community. I hate the term IWC, but you know what I mean. Because everyone's on the internet, this day and age for the most part, every wrestling fan. But still, with Charlotte, I feel like she's come a long way. She's a lot better as a heel. So if people are shitting all over her, oh, she's awful, she sucks, then it's unjustified? Yeah, sure, because I don't feel like she is awful. I feel like, she's not amazing just yet, but she really has improved since she came up, even from the main roster. Because even from NXT. On the mic, she's gotten better. She's still not a great mic worker, but she has gotten better. She just has no inflection in her voice. So it gets very boring very quickly. She sounds like a robot. But she is getting better in that department. She's still a very good worker, and her character's coming around. The whole Ric Flair thing with him in her corner, I feel like works for her. As kind of like the woman version of Ric Flair, and those two have good chemistry. Obviously, they're father and daughter. You don't need me to tell you that. But yeah, I feel like she sucks, she's awful. I don't see too much of that, so I don't know what you're talking about. But if people are saying that, I don't think she is. I'm not the biggest Charlotte fan of all time, but she is good, and she has gotten better, and she'll continue to get better in the future. So to answer your question in a nutshell, yes, from some fans that do hate on Charlotte. You did say some fans. You didn't say everybody. So you were right in saying that. But yes, for those fans that do, utterly, hate Charlotte for whatever reason, I do think it is unjustified. His next question: out of WrestleMania 28, 30, and 31, which of these WrestleManias is your favorite and why? Very good question. I loved all three of these WrestleManias. I'd probably go, if you asked me a year ago, and that was before WrestleMania 31, obviously, I'd probably say 28, but 31 for me was the near perfect show. 28, I just have very fond memories of that show. I had a better road to WrestleMania. Someone else asked a question about that, and I'll get to that momentarily. But with the WrestleManias themselves, 31, I would say, was better than 28. Just because the main events I thought were really, really good. The main events at 28 I thought were better overall, but the whole card at 31 I thought was better at 31. Because the whole undercard I thought was awesome. We had a really, really good opener. Even John Cena and Rusev had a good match. Sting and Triple H, regardless of what you thought of it, that might have been the low point of the night for some people. I didn't like the finish, but the match itself, I was entertained by it. Rollins and Orton had a great fucking wrestling match. The women's match was decent. The main event I thought was awesome. So, can't complain. I can't complain. I love that WrestleMania. So, right now, my favorite WrestleMania thing after last year is WrestleMania 31. My favorite WrestleMania that I have been a fan for, definitely WrestleMania 31. And his final question here: what are your WrestleMania predictions in regards to the New Day and the tag team titles? I talked about it last week, but I would love to see New Day, Dudley Boys, and Usos. We're already getting the Dudley Boys Usos feud as it is, so you might as well just interject, the New Day and just do a three-way tag team title feud between them. I know. We've been getting a lot of multi-man tag team title matches at WrestleMania for a couple of years now, but it makes the most sense. I like the idea of Dudley Boys versus Usos. It's something new. It's something fresh. Put the titles on the line with New Day involved. It could be a great wrestling match and a very good feud on the road to WrestleMania. It's a lot better than just doing... Because if you know for a fact that if it was New Day versus League of Nations, then Dudley Boys and Usos is not happening at WrestleMania. They're not doing two separate tag team matches with one having nothing on the line. So it's either going to be a Fatal 4-Way tag team title match, and I hope that's not the case because I don't give two fucks about League of Nations. But I would love to see something like I would love to see New Day as something of a triple threat tag team title match between New Day, Dudley Boys, and Usos. At Cody Collier 37, who would you like to see face Kalisto at WrestleMania and why? RJ made a great case for Sin Cara. I would like to see that. If not Sin Cara, then Neville. They've been teaming, a little bit recently. They did have a great match on SmackDown about a month ago. That was a really fun match. If they can make it like a best-of-5 series. I know I say that all the time, but I feel like if anyone could have a great best-of-5 series over the U.S. title, or just a great best-of-5 series in general, it would be those two. So Kalisto and Neville, or Kalisto and Sin Cara. Other than that, like Bray Wyatt would be fucking random, so I don't want to see that. I don't know really what else or who else you put him up against if he's not in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and he shouldn't be. You probably will be, but he shouldn't be. But even if it was on the kickoff show, like RJ, made a case for, pitched a couple weeks ago. That was the word I was looking for. As he pitched a few weeks ago, Sin Cara would be great in a mask and title match, or just Sin Cara in general if he went heel or something. Or Neville. I would prefer Neville, but Sin Cara has that storyline significance behind it. At the Wrestle Guy, what are your thoughts on Roman Reigns turning heel at WrestleMania and shaking Triple H's hand to end the show, becoming a corporate champ? I really want to see Roman Reigns go heel. I really like that idea, but having him shake Triple H's hand after facing him, that makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. It's probably as illogical as having Stone Cold, side with Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 17, which was the death of the Attitude Era and the death of WWE's business for many years, and still to this day, or at least not as hot as it once was. That was the moment that killed business for WWE going into the Invasion. And I'm not saying that they would have that same effect they did Roman Reigns and Triple H. I really want to see Roman Reigns go heel, but the moment to do that would have been at Survivor Series, not at WrestleMania when they're supposed to be going one-on-one. Like, they have they beat the shit out of each other, then Roman Reigns wins, and then he becomes a corporate champ. That doesn't really make much sense. I would rather see like a double turn. I'd rather see something like that. That would be pretty cool. I don't know how you get to that point, but I'd rather see that than having... Again, I really want to see Roman Reigns go heel, but I don't know how the hell you have these two have this, multi-year-long rivalry and then have Roman Reigns join Triple H like nothing ever happened. Literally after having a match. That makes no sense. But if you want to turn him heel and you can do that without having him join Triple H, then I'm all for that. At E13A, WrestleMania 25 in 2009 to WrestleMania 31 last year. What year had the best road to WrestleMania? Great question. Very, very good question. Probably my favorite question of today's video. But the reason behind that is because I never really thought of that before, like best road to WrestleManias. So let's break this down here. That's not a lot of road to WrestleMania, so we can't go year by year. WrestleMania 25... I was excited for it. I was in a different place at that time. I was just starting out as a wrestling fan, so it's kind of different looking back on it now. And Taker and Michaels had a great feud, and so did Triple H and Orton, but the feud over the World Heavyweight Championship was, who fucking cared? The rest of the road to WrestleMania was average. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but I thought it was, it was decent. WrestleMania 26, good road to WrestleMania. I thought the WrestleMania was better than the road to WrestleMania was. It wasn't amazing, but the whole road to WrestleMania I thought was, again, good. WrestleMania 27 I thought was great. Honestly, even the WrestleMania sucked, but the road to WrestleMania itself was actually really, really good. They were promoting the shit out of it being the most epic of all time, so they really got my hopes up. I shouldn't have let them do that to me, but they did. But I thought the road to WrestleMania in 2011, despite how bad the actual show was really, really good. The Rock came back. Royal Rumble was great. Elimination Chamber was awesome. Cena and Miz were actually having a really good feud over the WWE Championship. Punk and Orton were having a good feud. Edge and Del Rio had a really good feud. Christian came back. Trish Stratus came back. It felt like we had a big angle on Raw every other week. JBL made an appearance. All this other great stuff happened on that road to WrestleMania. It's really a shame that WrestleMania blew, but it was a great road to WrestleMania. 28, I would say, was the best, honestly, because I was probably more excited for that WrestleMania than any other WrestleMania ever. Maybe this year too, because I'm really, really anticipating this year's card. But 28, we were excited for, not dating back to Elimination Chamber or the Rumble, dating back a year when it was announced that Rock and Cena was taking place at WrestleMania 28. So, I love the idea. I love that idea of announcing the match 1 year out. You can't do that all the time, but for that match, it worked. It made the road to WrestleMania very, very exciting. And the thing with that road to WrestleMania, unlike in 2011, it lived up to the hype. The WrestleMania, I thought, was my favorite up until last year. But yeah, the whole road to WrestleMania was amazing. So I'd probably go with WrestleMania 28. Because let's look at the last couple of years. 29 sucked. 29 was the 1 year where the bad build matched the bad pay-per-view. It was just like, they waited until like the final 2 weeks before the show to confirm half the fucking card. The whole card was in like a state of disarray until like a week out before the show. Like, how can you do that with your biggest event of the year? It made no sense. But yeah, there was, that road to WrestleMania sucked. WrestleMania 30, the road to WrestleMania 30 started out rocky. It got better, like, down the line, but it wasn't for, like, a while because we really didn't want to see Batista and Randy Orton. So, I mean, it got better, but overall it wasn't, like, amazing. It got better down the stretch. And the WrestleMania itself exceeded all expectations. Same thing with 31. The road to WrestleMania, it was good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Kept on going back and forth. And then the WrestleMania itself exceeded all expectations. So, I mean, again, I love the idea of having a build match the pay-per-view itself. WrestleMania 28 for that, for me, did that for me. Where the build I thought was great. It lived up to the hype. The whole WrestleMania I thought was awesome. So, my favorite road to WrestleMania, or the best road to WrestleMania, both best and my favorite would probably be for WrestleMania 28 a couple years ago. At JJF Tweets, thoughts on promotions like Rev Pro and WXW using YouTube to show their episodes. I'm not too familiar with those promotions other than what Jared has put in his posts and stuff and his articles. But I like the idea just because I don't know where else to watch it. So doing stuff like that and putting the full episodes on YouTube, a lot like what Lucha does with like a few of their matches, they'll put like the main event in its entirety on YouTube. It gets more people like exposed to their matches and more exposed to the promotion. They're more willing to check it out. So yeah, I like the idea of them doing that because otherwise I don't know where the hell else I would check out matches from promotions like that. And the final question here from @RJ_Marceau, good old RJ. His question was, should Ted DiBiase Jr. have been a World or WWE Champion, Money in the Bank winner, and thoughts on his booking? I love Ted DiBiase Jr. Even from the get-go, from the moment he made his debut, I thought he had a lot of potential to be a top-tier talent in WWE. But for whatever reason, based off, like you said, thoughts on his booking. He was booked well early on, and I thought the legacy would kind of be the vehicle to kind of get him over as a single babyface star. But in the end, it was really Randy Orton who became the biggest babyface out of anyone in that group, and it really went nowhere. So, Randy Orton went on to become like a big babyface for like 3 or 4 years on end, but Ted DiBiase did nothing for him. Cody Rhodes ended up getting over on his own on SmackDown, but DiBiase was dead in the water by that point. They gave him his father's gimmick, which never ever works. So that was stupid. And then beyond that, 2011, he meant nothing. When he finally went babyface, I liked it, but it was like 2-3 years too late. So, and by that point, no one really cared. He got hurt. He was off TV for like a year, and he left on his own in 2013. So his booking was awful. I thought, he didn't really have a lot of charisma, but he did improve over time. I thought he was a better babyface than he was a heel, but they turned him way too late before anyone could really care. They had the whole DiBiase posse thing, which I thought was cool. But beyond that, I thought they didn't really do much. What they could have done with him had they booked him better from the get-go. But to answer the first part of your question, could he have been a World or WWE Champion? I could have seen him as a world champion, maybe not WWE champion, maybe a world champion on SmackDown. Because I know at one point they were thinking about doing Taker and DiBiase at WrestleMania, maybe even at WrestleMania 25, which may shock a lot of people because they ended up going with Shawn Michaels instead, which was the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. But maybe they were thinking about it for 26. I don't know what the exact... I'm pretty sure it's for 25. I can't remember exactly, but... a Money in the Bank win would have been cool. I would have given him the briefcase in 2010. Miz won it, and he ended up, becoming a main eventer out of it. But DiBiase would have been a good choice. I felt like it was great with his gimmick at that time. I thought the gimmick and giving him his father's gimmick was kind of stupid because he never got over with it. But the whole money gimmick and then being Mr. Money in the Bank, it wrote itself. They didn't do it, and he was damaged goods from that point forward. But that's it, guys, for #AskGSM for February 29th, 2016. As always, to send in your question, be sure to tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRun with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Jason.Matthews. Be sure to leave a comment on the wall or on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or be sure to leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, folks, as always, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy Leap Day and Raw tonight. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road to WrestleMania.